Section 1. Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the sun-scorched sands of the Sahara, where you're a trader in ancient Mali, standing at the gates of Timbuktu, ready to join a caravan bound for distant markets. Picture it. The air shimmers with heat, your sandals sink into the soft, golden dunes, and the horizon stretches like a promise you're not sure you can keep. Camels grumble nearby, their humps swaying like ships on a desert sea. You're surrounded by merchants, their robes dyed in indigo so deep it stains their skin blue, hence the nickname Blue Men of the Tuareg. This is no weekend road trip. One wrong step out there, and you're a sun-bleached skeleton by next season. Spoiler, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're at Timbuktu's edge. The year is roughly 1320, and the Mali Empire is at its peak, a powerhouse of West Africa. This city isn't just a dot on a map. It's a magnet for scholars, traders, and dreamers, all drawn by gold, salt, and the promise of wealth. You squint at the mud brick walls, their surfaces cracked like old leather under the relentless sun. The Sahara looms ahead, a 3.6 million square mile monster that swallowed armies and ambitions alike. Your caravan is assembling, 50 camels, a dozen traders, and enough supplies to last weeks. You're carrying salt from the northern mines, headed for the gold-rich south. This trade route, the Trans-Saharan, is the empire's lifeblood, moving goods and ideas across a desert so vast it makes your modern commute look like a stroll to the fridge. Let's talk sensory overload. The air smells of dust and camel sweat, with a faint whiff of roasted millet from a nearby stall. You hear the clink of metal coins. Cowrie shells were currency here, too, because who has pockets for gold nuggets?
Your robe stick to your skin, and the it feel like a personal grudge.
A quirky tidbit. Some traders smeared camel fat on their lips to fend off the dry air, like the world's worst lip balm. Imagine you try it, and yeah, it's as gross as it sounds. Historians still argue whether Timbuktu's traders were more merchant or middleman, brokering deals or hauling goods themselves. Either way, you're no Jeff Bezos. You're out here risking it all for a sack of salt.
You take your first step towards the caravan, you're tamping like a drum at a griot storytelling session.
A griot, by the way, is a wandering poet historian, and you'll meet one later, trust me. For now, you're sizing up your fellow traders. There's a Tuareg elder with eyes like a hawk, a Songhai merchant muttering prayers, and a kid, barely 15, carrying a water skin bigger than he is.
You roll bound by one truth. The desert doesn't take care who you are.
A quick joke to lighten the mood. Why did the camel join the caravan? Because it was tired of being a one-hump wonder. Okay, maybe that's the heat talking. You adjust your turban, double-check your water, and step into the line. The Sahara's waiting, and it's not the forgiving type. Section 2.
You're trudging through the soft sands just outside Timbuktu, the caravan stretching ahead like a sluggish serpent.
Your job now is to load your camel, a lanky beast with a stare that says, "I've seen worse than you." The air's thick with dust, kicked up by hooves and heels, and you're already regretting not packing lighter. The Mali traders didn't mess around with their camels, Bactrian or dromedary. These animals were the 4x4s of the 14th century, built to haul heavy loads across the Sahara. You're piling on sacks of salt, leather bags of dried dates, and a few tightly wrapped bundles of cloth. Each item's weight is calculated to the ounce. Too much, and your camel's knees buckle by day 3. Too little, and you're not eating when you reach the next market.
Let's paint the scene.
The camel's coarse hair scratches your hands as you tie ropes, the knots tricky enough to make you wish you'd paid attention in Boy Scouts. The sun's climbing, baking the ground so it radiates heat through your sandals. You hear the low grumble of your camel. Fun fact, they don't spit so much as hurl their stomach contents when annoyed. Lucky for you, this one's in a good mood. A mainstream fact, camels could carry up to 400 pounds and travel 20 miles a day, making them the backbone of Mali's trade empire. Without them, the trans-Saharan routes would have been a pipe dream. You're starting to get why traders treated these animals like family, or at least like really grumpy co-workers. Now a quirky tidbit. Some Mali traders tied small bells to their camels' tails, not for style but to track stragglers in sandstorms. Imagine the faint jingle fading into the wind, kind of soothing, until you realize it means your supplies are wandering off. You're tempted to try it, but your camel gives you a side eye that screams, "Don't even think about it." Historians still argue whether traders bred camels for temperament or just bribed them with extra feed. Either way, you're learning fast. Respect the camel, or you're walking. You hoist the last sack, your back screaming like it's auditioning for a medieval chiropractor's nightmare. A trader nearby, a wiry Songhai man with a gap-toothed grin, shows you how to balance the load so it doesn't slide mid-trek. He's been at this for decades, and his hands move like they're conducting an orchestra of rope and leather. You try to mimic him, but your knots look like a toddler's art project. He laughs, and you do too. Joke number 1. What's a camel's favorite job? A pack mule, because it's got no hump to prove. Okay, you're not quitting your day job for comedy.
The caravan is ready to move, and you take your place behind your camel, gripping the lead rope.
You're noticing the rhythm now, the sway of the loads, the soft thud of hooves, the murmured banter among traders. Remember that camel fat lip balm from Timbuktu's gates? You're still tasting it, and it's not growing on you. Your water skin sloshes at your hip, a reminder to ration it. The Sahara's no joke. Temperatures hit 120 degrees Fahrenheit by noon, and shade is just a rumor. A quick aside, if you're listening with a fan on, imagine it's the desert breeze, minus the sand in your teeth. You glance at the elder Tuareg from before, his turban perfectly wrapped while yours is unraveling like your confidence. He nods, and you nod back, feeling briefly like you belong. The caravan lurches forward, and you're officially on the move, one step deeper into the Mali Empire's desert dance. Section 3. You're swaying with the caravan's rhythm now, the Sahara's dunes rolling past like waves frozen in time. Your camel plods along, and you're tasked with checking the load, specifically, the salt slabs strapped to its flanks. These aren't your kitchen table salt shakers. They're massive, chalky blocks, each one weighing as much as a small child. You run your fingers over one, its surface rough and gritty, flecked with dirt from the mines of Tagaza, hundreds of miles north. In the Mali Empire, salt was more than a seasoning. It was currency, status, life itself. You're hauling what's essentially a stack of gold bars, only heavier and less shiny. One slab could buy a month's worth of grain in the southern markets, and you're starting to see why traders risk the desert for this stuff. Picture the scene. The sun's high, painting the sand a blinding white, and your throat's dry despite the water skin at your hip. The salt slabs are wrapped in coarse cloth to keep them from crumbling, but tiny grains still escape, sparkling on the camel's hide like misplaced glitter. A mainstream fact. Salt was so valuable in the 14th century that it was traded pound for pound with gold in some Mali markets. The Sahara's northern mines produced it in abundance, but the gold-rich south craved it to preserve food and, frankly, to flex their wealth. You're carrying enough to make a small village jealous, and the weight of that responsibility sits heavier than the slabs themselves. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some traders swore that licking a salt slab during a long trek could stave off dehydration, like a medieval Gatorade.
You give it a try. Yep, it's like kissing a dusty rock, and your face pucker like you've bitten a lemon.
No wonder they stuck to water. Historians still argue whether salt's value came more from its practical use or its cultural clout. Think of it as the Bitcoin of the Mali Empire, only you could eat it. You're not sure where you stand in that debate, but you're definitely not licking it again. Your hands are chalky now, and you wipe them on your robe, which is starting to look like a desert camouflage experiment gone wrong. A trader ahead, a woman with braids tucked under her turban, notices your struggle and tosses you a scrap of leather to grip the slabs better. She's got a no-nonsense vibe, probably because she's done this route since you were learning to tie your shoes, or whatever passed for shoes in 1320. Joke number 1. Why was the salt slab so popular? Because it was the saltiest gossip in town. You chuckle to yourself, earning a curious glance from a nearby camel, who clearly doesn't get the humor. You're starting to feel the caravan's pace, each step a negotiation with the sand. The air smells faintly of salt and sweat, with a hint of the dried millet you munched back at Timbuktu. Remember that griot we mentioned at the city gates? His stories are starting to feel like a promise, something to keep you going when the heat makes your head swim. For now, you focus on the slabs, double-checking the ropes like your life depends on it, because it does. A loose load could mean a broken slab, and that's a loss you can't afford. A quick modern aside, if you're snuggled under a blanket right now, imagine it's the weight of a salt slab, minus the part where it bankrupts you. The caravan stretches on, and you glance at the horizon, wondering what the stars will look like when night falls. They're your next challenge, but that's a problem for later. Section 4. The sun's dipping low, painting the Sahara's dunes in shades of amber and shadow. You're trudging alongside your camel, the caravan's pace slowing as night approaches. The sky's clear, a vast canvas of deepening blue, and it's time to navigate by the stars, the ancient Mali trader's GPS. You're no astronomer, but you're learning fast. Out here, a wrong turn means you're lost in a sea of sand, and there's no roadside assistance in 1320. The Tuareg elder from Timbuktu's gates is up ahead, pointing at the heavens, his voice low as he names the stars in a language you're only half catching. You squint upward, trying to spot the patterns that'll keep you on course. Imagine this: the air's cooling, a relief after the day's furnace, and the sand under your sandals feels almost soft. The stars are sharp, brighter than any city sky you've ever seen, like someone spilled diamonds across velvet. Your camel snorts, unimpressed, as you fumble with a leather strap to keep your load steady. A mainstream fact: Mali traders use constellations like the Pleiades and Orion to guide their caravans, a skill passed down through generations. They didn't have maps or compasses, just the sky's reliable clockwork, which was enough to cross a desert bigger than most modern countries. You're starting to respect the sheer brainpower that took. Now, a quirky tidbit. Some traders believed certain stars were spirits of past caravanners, watching over the living. You catch yourself wondering if that faint twinkler up there is judging your knot-tying skills from Section 2. It's a comforting thought, until you trip over a rock, smooth move, stargazer. Historians still argue whether these celestial guides were purely practical or tied to spiritual beliefs, a mix of science and soul that kept traders grounded. You're leaning toward both, especially as the night's chill makes you pull your robe tighter. You're following the elder's lead now, his finger tracing arcs across the sky. He points to a cluster you're calling that lumpy triangle thing in your head, but he calls it something melodic, maybe a Songhai name for a hunter or a bird. You're trying to memorize it, but it's like learning a song in one go. A quick joke: why did the star go to therapy? It had an identity crisis in every constellation. You smirk, though the camel ahead gives you a look like it's heard better. The caravan's quiet now, save for the soft jingle of those tail bells from Section 2, a sound that's weirdly soothing against the vast silence. You're keeping one eye on the stars and one on the sand, which is starting to feel like a metaphor for your life right now. Remember that salt slab you were wrestling with? It's still secure, thank goodness, because losing it would be like dropping your paycheck into a shredder. A modern aside: if you're listening with earbuds, imagine the stars are winking at you through your ceiling. The elder's still guiding, his voice a steady drone that's almost hypnotic. You're starting to get it. The stars aren't just lights. They're a map, a story, a lifeline. You take a sip from your water skin, the taste faintly metallic, and adjust your turban, which is still slipping like it's got a grudge. The caravan presses on, and you're one step closer to the next oasis, wherever it is. Section 5. You're deep in the Sahara now, the stars overhead your only map, and the caravan's pace has slowed to a weary shuffle. Ahead, a faint shimmer of green breaks the endless sand, an oasis, your first rest stop since leaving Timbuktu. You're practically hallucinating shade and water, your throat scratchy despite rationing that water skin like a miser. The oasis is no mirage. It's a cluster of date palms and a small murky pool, fringed by reeds that sway in the night breeze. Mali traders relied on these desert pit stops to survive, and you're about to learn why they were more than just a place to crash. You guide your camel toward the water, its hooves sinking into the softer, damp earth, and you're already dreaming of sitting down. Picture it: the air smells of wet soil and sweet dates, a stark contrast to the dry dust you've been breathing.
Firefly wink in the dark, and the soft splash of water feel like a lullaby.
Your camel kneels with a groan, and you unload a few essentials. Your salt slabs stay strapped. No way you're risking those. A mainstream fact: oases were critical to the trans-Saharan trade, providing water and forage for camels, and often doubled as trading hubs where caravans swapped gossip and goods. Without them, the Mali Empire's routes would have been a death sentence, not a highway. Here's a quirky tidbit: some traders claimed oasis water had healing powers, swearing it could cure a fever or a bad mood. You dip your hands in the pool, the water cool and slightly brackish, and give it a sip. Yeah, it's no miracle cure, unless your problem is boredom. You're not sold, but it's better than that camel fat lip balm from
Timbuktu.
Historians still argue whether oases were chosen for their water quality or just their location, a debate that feels academic when your feet are screaming for a break.
You're just happy to be here, not lost in a dune sommière. You settled under a palm, the front rustling like a whispered secret.
A nearby trader, the gap-toothed Songhai from Section 2, is roasting a handful of millet over a small fire, the smoky aroma making your stomach growl. You offer him a sliver of your dried dates, and he nods, a silent thanks. Joke number 1: why did the oasis throw a party? Because it was the coolest spot in the desert. You keep that one to yourself. Your camel's judgment is harsh enough. The caravan spread out now, some traders checking their loads, others praying or swapping stories. You're starting to feel the weight of the journey, each step from Timbuktu a test of grit you didn't know you had. Remember those starlit paths from last section? The elders' teachings are still in your head, and you glance up, spotting that lumpy triangle constellation again. It's comforting, like a friend who doesn't talk much. A modern aside: if you're tucked in bed, imagine the oasis's breeze is your fan, minus the sand in your sheets. You stretch out, your back popping like it's thanking you, and take another sip of water. The Songhai trader offers you a pinch of roasted millet, and it's nutty warm, a small luxury out here.
The oasis feel like a pause button, a moment to breathe before the desert start testing you again. You close your eyes, the fire is crackle fading, and wonder what is next.
Section 6.
You're steering from your rest at the oasis, the downlight turning the palm from golden.
The caravan's gearing up to move, camels grumbling as traders reload their goods.
You're rubbing sleep from your eyes, the cool oasis water a fading memory as the Sahara acid creeps back.
Now you're learning the trader's code, the unwritten rules that keep this desert caravan from descending into chaos. These aren't laws carved in stone but a shared understanding among Mali's merchants, built on trust, survival, and the kind of pragmatism that comes from knowing the sand doesn't care about your feelings. You're watching the Tuareg elder from Section 4, his gestures sharp as he settles a dispute over water rations, and you're starting to get how this code holds everything together. Imagine the scene, the air's warming, carrying the scent of dust and camel hide, and your turban's already slipping again. Seriously, who invented these things? Your salt slabs, still secure from Section 3, glint in the morning sun, and you're hyper-aware of their value. A mainstream fact, the trader's code emphasized mutual aid, like sharing water or helping a stranded caravaner, because no one survives the Sahara alone. It wasn't altruism, it was insurance. Today's favor might save your hide tomorrow. You're tying your camel's lead rope, half listening as the elder mediates, his voice calm but firm, like a teacher who's seen every excuse. Here's a quirky tidbit. Traders sometimes mark their camels with secret symbols, not for branding but to signal loyalty to a specific caravan leader. You spot a faint crescent carved into your camel's saddle, and you wonder if it's a nod to the elder or just someone's doodle. It's like a medieval bumper sticker, and you're tempted to add your own, maybe a smiley face. Historians still argue whether this code was universal across Mali's routes or varied by region, a puzzle no one's fully cracked. You're just glad there's some order, because the desert's chaotic enough. You're back in line now, the caravan snaking toward the next dune. The Songhai woman from Section 3, the one with the no-nonsense braids, catches your eye and points to your loose turban. You fumble to fix it, earning her smirk. Joke number 1, why's your turban so bad? Because it's got a mind of its own. You laugh, but she's already turned away, checking her own load. The code's at work around you. Traders share a sip of water, help tighten a rope, or warn of a soft patch of sand. It's not chatty teamwork, it's quiet, efficient, like they've done this 1,000 times. Which, to be fair, they have. Remember that oasis breeze from last section? It's gone, replaced by a dry gust that stings your eyes. Your water skin's lighter now, and you're rationing like it's a game of survival chess. A modern aside, if you're sipping a bedtime tea, imagine it's the oasis water, minus the brackish aftertaste. You're starting to feel the code's weight, not just as rules but as a rhythm, like those camel bells from Section 2. The elder's up ahead, his hawk-like eyes scanning the horizon, and you're grateful he's got your back. You adjust your grip on the lead rope, your camel giving you a look that says, "Keep up, rookie." The Sahara's stretching out again, and you're one step deeper into its unforgiving dance. Section 7. The caravan's deep in the Sahara's heart now, dunes towering like silent giants under a midday sun that feels like it's personally offended by your existence. You're sweating through your robe, the salt slabs on your camel glinting like they're mocking you. Today you're handling something even more precious than salt, gold dust, the Mali Empire's glittering lifeblood. You're entrusted with a small leather pouch, its contents so fine they slip through your fingers like liquid sunlight. This isn't jewelry or nuggets, it's powder painstakingly panned from southern rivers, and it's why kings and emperors bow to Mali's might. You're holding wealth that could buy a palace, and the responsibility makes your palms itch, or maybe that's just the sand. Picture it, the air's thick with heat, the kind that makes your eyelids heavy, and your camel's swaying gait is lulling you into a daze. The pouch is tied to your belt, its weight subtle but impossible to ignore. A mainstream fact: Mali supplied half the world's gold in the 14th century, fueling economies from Timbuktu to Cairo to Europe. This dust wasn't just money, it was power, making Mali's Mansa Musa, the empire's richest ruler, a name whispered in awe across continents. You're carrying a tiny piece of that legacy, and it feels like holding a star. Here's a quirky tidbit. Traders sometimes hid gold dust in hollowed-out camel bones, smuggling it past nosy bandits or greedy toll collectors. You're tempted to try it, but your camel's giving you that don't even think about it stare from Section 2. Besides, you're not that crafty yet. Historians still argue whether Mali's gold trade relied more on trust or paranoia, with secret stashes and coded deals fueling the debate. You're leaning toward paranoia. Out here, trust is as scarce as shade. You're walking beside the Songhai woman from Section 6, her braids tucked neatly despite the chaos of the desert. She notices your nervous grip on the pouch and mutters something about keeping it close but not too close. Good advice, since pickpockets aren't just a modern problem. You nod, trying to look like you've got this. Joke number 1. Why's gold dust so sneaky? Because it's always slipping through the cracks. You keep that one to yourself. The woman's not in the mood for your stand-up routine. The caravan's pace is steady, the jingle of those tail bells from Section 2 a faint comfort against the desert silence. Remember the trader's code from last section? It's in play now, with everyone keeping an eye on everyone else's goods. You're starting to feel like part of this uneasy alliance. Your gold dust a shared stake in the caravan's success. A modern aside, if you're cozy under a blanket, imagine it's the weight of that pouch, minus the part where it makes you a target. You take a sip from your water skin, the taste still faintly like that oasis from Section 5, and adjust your turban, which is, slipping again. The elder's up ahead, his eyes scanning the dunes, and you wonder if he's ever lost a grain of gold. Probably not. You tighten the pouch's knot, your heart thudding, and keep moving, one step closer to the next market. Section 8. The Sahara's relentless sun is sinking, casting long shadows across the dunes, but you're not relaxing yet. The caravan's pace has quickened, traders' eyes darting to the horizon. You're picking up on their tension, and then you see it, faint tracks in the sand, not camel hooves but human footprints, scattered and fresh.
Bandit. The warden in the air like dust you can shake.
Mali's trans-Saharan routes were gold mines for traders, but they were also hunting grounds for raiders who'd rather steal your salt and gold than earn it. You're gripping your camel's lead rope tighter, the pouch of gold dust from Section 7 feeling like a neon sign screaming, "Rob me." Imagine the scene. The air's cooling, but your pulse is racing, and the sand underfoot feels traitorously soft, hiding who knows what. Your camel snorts, sensing the mood, its tail bells jingling faintly, those same bells from Section 2 that now sound more like an alarm. A mainstream fact: banditry was a constant threat on Mali's trade routes, with raiders targeting caravans for their salt, gold, and even camels. Some were desperate nomads. Others were organized gangs who knew the desert better than you know your own neighborhood. You're scanning the dunes, half expecting a Hollywood-style ambush, but it's just silence for now. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some traders carried fake pouches filled with sand to trick bandits, tossing them as decoys while hiding the real gold in their robes. You're wishing you'd thought of that, but your one pouch is very real, and very heavy. You're not James Bond, you're just trying not to trip over your own sandals. Historians still argue whether bandits were a bigger threat to Molly's trade than sandstorms or thirst, a debate that feels pointless when you're the one clutching your gold. You're betting on bandits, given how your stomach's twisting right now. The Tuareg elder from Section 4 is up ahead, his hawk-like eyes narrowed as he signals the caravan to tighten formation. You shuffle closer to the Songhai woman from Section 7, her no-nonsense vibe oddly reassuring. She mutters something about staying calm, and you nod, though your heart's doing a drum solo. Joke number 1. Why don't bandits use GPS? Because the desert's their Google Maps. You don't say it out loud. The elder's glare could stop a sandstorm. The caravan's moving quieter now, voices hushed, and you're hyper-aware of every rustle in the dusk. Remember that trader's code from Section 6? It's saving your skin now, as traders share quick glances, ready to back each other up. Your water skin still at your hip, but you're too nervous to drink. Unlike that Oasis stop in Section 5, there's no pausing here. A modern aside, if you're tucked in with a fan humming, imagine it's the desert wind, minus the bandit tracks creeping you out. You're keeping your camel steady, its grumpy stare from Section 2 almost comforting. The footprints fade into the sand, maybe a false alarm, but the elder's not slowing down. You adjust your turban, still slipping because of course it is, and keep your eyes on the dunes, praying the stars from Section 4 guide you to safety. Section 9. The bandit scare from the last stretch has faded, but your nerves are still jangling like those camel bells from Section 2. The caravan settled into a steady plod, the night air crisp as the Sahara's dunes glow faintly under a crescent moon. You're gathered around a small fire now. The caravan paused for a rare break, and a griot, a Mali storyteller and historian, is spinning a tale. His voice is low and rhythmic, like a lullaby with gravitas, weaving stories of ancient traders, desert spirits, and the Mali Empire's glory. You're sitting cross-legged on a woven mat, your gold pouch from Section 7 tucked close, and you're starting to see how these stories aren't just entertainment. They're the glue of Mali's trade culture. Picture it. The firelight dances on the griot's face, his hands gesturing like they're painting the air. The air smells of smoke and roasted locusts, a trader's snack you're politely declining. Your camel's tethered nearby, chewing something with the enthusiasm of a bored teenager. A mainstream fact, griots were the oral historians of Mali, preserving the empire's history, trade routes, and even family lineages through song and story. They were walking libraries, vital to a culture where writing was rare outside Timbuktu's scholarly circles. You're hanging on his words, each one pulling you deeper into the desert's past. Here's a quirky tidbit. Griots sometimes slipped secret trade tips into their stories, coded messages about safe routes or shady merchants, disguised as myths. You're wondering if this griot's tale about a clever fox dodging a jackal is really about avoiding bandits like those tracks from Section 8. It's like medieval insider trading, and you're not sure you're clever enough to crack the code. Historians still argue whether griots exaggerated Mali's wealth to boost its reputation or stuck to the facts. You're betting on a bit of both. His story about a gold mountain sounds like a stretch, but it's got you hooked. The Songhai woman from Section 8 is beside you, her braids catching the firelight as she nods along. You offer her a dried date, a small nod to the trader's code from Section 6, and she accepts with a half smile. Joke number 1. Why's the griot's story so long? Because he's paid by the word. You keep that to yourself. Interrupting feels like a crime. The griot's voice dips, describing a trader who navigated by the stars. Yep, like you in Section 4, and you feel a flicker of pride, like you're part of this legacy. Remember that oasis from Section 5? Its memory lingers as you sip your water skin, the taste less brackish in your mind now. A modern aside, if you're drifting off with a pillow, imagine it's this mat, minus the sand fleas you're definitely not thinking about. The griot's tail is winding down, tying Molly's trade to its soul, gold, salt, and stories, all carried across the desert. Your turban's still slipping, because why wouldn't it? And you adjust it, earning a chuckle from a nearby trader. The fire's embers glow, the griot's voice fades, and you're left staring at the stars, feeling the weight of centuries in every word. Section 10. The griot's voice still echoes in your head as the caravan presses on, the Sahara's dunes now lit by a pale dawn. You're approaching a bustling market, a souk nestled at a desert crossroads, where traders from across Mali and beyond haggle over goods. The air's alive with shouts, laughter, and the clink of cowrie shells changing hands. You're leading your camel, its salt slabs from Section 3 and gold pouch from Section 7 your tickets to this chaotic bazaar. Your job is to trade, not just for profit but for survival. Your supplies are dwindling, and the next leg of the journey won't wait. You're stepping into a world where sharp wits matter more than sharp swords, and you're hoping you don't fumble this. Picture it. The souk is a riot of color, indigo robes, baskets of red cola nuts, and stacks of woven cloth shimmering in the sun.
The air smell of spice, sweat, and something like overripe fruit.
Your camel snorts, unimpressed by the crowd, its tail bells from Section 2 jingling faintly. A mainstream fact, Mali's markets were economic hubs, linking the Sahara to West Africa's forests and savannas, where salt, gold, and even slaves were traded for grain, cloth, and copper. This souk's a microcosm of the empire's reach, and you're right in the thick of it, dodging elbows and overeager vendors. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some traders used knotted cords to track deals, each knot a reminder of a debt or a promise, like a medieval spreadsheet. You're eyeing a vendor's cord, wondering if you should try it, but your memory's already stretched remembering which star was which in Section 4. Historians still argue whether these markets were free-for-alls or tightly regulated by Mali's rulers, a debate that feels distant when a merchant's shouting in your face about his premium millet. You're leaning toward chaos, given the guy trying to sell you a suspiciously lumpy sack of grain. You're haggling now, your salt slab on offer for a stack of dried fish and a clay jar of shea butter. The vendor, a wiry man with a scar across his cheek, drives a hard bargain, his eyes glinting like he knows your gold pouch exists. You channel the Songhai woman's no-nonsense vibe from Section 9, holding firm until he relents. Joke number 1. Why's the souk so loud? Because everyone's yelling for a deal. You mutter it under your breath, earning a curious glance from a passing trader. The trader's code from Section 6 is in play. Nobody's stealing, but nobody's naive either. You seal the deal, your salt slab traded for enough supplies to keep you going. Remember that griot's tale from last section? Its rhythm feels like it's guiding your steps as you weave through the crowd. A modern aside, if you're cozy with a snack, imagine it's those cola nuts, minus the part where they taste like bitter coffee. Your turban's slipping again, shocker, and you retie it, dodging a kid hawking palm wine. The elder from Section 8 is nearby, trading his own goods with the ease of a pro. You're starting to feel the souk's pulse, each deal a thread in Mali's vast trade web. You tuck your new supplies onto your camel, the gold pouch still safe, and prepare to leave the market's chaos behind. Section 11. The souk's clamor fades as the caravan pulls away, the Sahara's quiet swallowing the market's buzz like it never existed. You're back on the trail, the sun climbing high, and your camel's plodding along with its new load of dried fish and shea butter from Section 10. You're starting to notice your camel more, not just as a grumpy pack animal, but as a partner in this desert grind. Mali traders were camel whisperers, their survival tied to these beasts' quirks and stamina. You're learning to read your camel's moods, from its stubborn head toss to the way it chews like it's judging your life choices. Out here, this animal's not just transport, it's family, or at least the cranky uncle you can't ditch. Picture it. The dunes stretch endlessly, the sand a soft gold that shifts underfoot. The air's dry, carrying the faint whiff of your camel's breath. Think old hay and bad decisions. Your turban's holding up for once, a minor miracle, and the gold pouch from Section 7 swings at your hip. A mainstream fact: Molly traders bred camels for endurance, selecting ones that could go days without water, their humps storing fat, not H2O for long hauls. These animals were so vital that losing one was like losing a ship at sea. You're patting your camel's flank, half expecting a thank you grunt, but it just flicks its tail. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some traders sang to their camels during long treks, claiming it calmed them or maybe just drowned out the complaining. You hum a little tune badly, and your camel gives you a look that says, "Stick to trading." It's not Grammy-worthy, but it passes the time. Historians still argue whether camel care was a science or an art, with training methods varying by tribe or trader. You're betting it's both, given how your camel seems to tolerate you but not love you. Yet. You're walking beside it now, the caravan a loose line snaking through the dunes. The Songhai woman from Section 10 is ahead, adjusting her camel's load with a practiced hand. You mimic her, tightening a rope, and she nods, high praise from her. Joke number 1. Why's the camel so chill? Because it's got no hump to get over. You keep that one quiet. The elder from Section 8 is nearby, and his glare could curdle milk. The trader's code from Section 6 hums along, traders checking each other's animals like neighbors borrowing sugar. Your camel's bells from Section 2 jingle softly, a sound that's starting to feel like home. Remember that souk's energy?
It's a distant memory, a you focus on your camel's steady steps.
A modern aside, if you're snuggled with a pet, imagine it's your camel, minus the part where it spits when annoyed. Your water skin's lighter, the oasis from Section 5 a dream you're chasing again. You're starting to get your camel's rhythm, its sway matching your steps. You murmur a word of thanks, half joking, and it flicks an ear. Maybe it's listening. The dunes roll on, and you're one step closer to wherever this desert road leads. Section 12. The Sahara's dunes seem to stretch into eternity, the midday sun turning the sand into a shimmering mirror that stings your eyes. You're trudging beside your camel, its familiar sway and jangling bells from Section 2 grounding you in the caravan's rhythm. Today, the desert itself feels like it's whispering secrets, and you're sifting through the sand, literally and figuratively, pondering the lost caravan routes of Mali's past. Some paths vanished under shifting dunes, others faded as trade hubs rose or fell, but each one holds clues to the empire's story. You're kicking at the sand, half hoping to uncover a relic, half knowing you're no Indiana Jones. Picture it. The air's so dry it crackles, and your robe's collecting dust like it's auditioning for a sandcastle. Your camel's load, salt slabs from Section 3, gold pouch from Section 7, sways steadily, a reminder of what's at stake. A mainstream fact: Mali's trans-Saharan routes shifted over centuries, with dunes burying old paths and forcing traders to adapt. Archaeologists have found pottery and tools along these routes, proof of caravans long gone, but many remain hidden, swallowed by the desert's appetite. You're scanning the ground, imagining a lost trader's water jug just underfoot. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Mali traders marked routes with piles of stones, called cairns, as crude signposts for others. You spot a small stack, weathered and half-buried, and wonder if it's a marker or just the desert's prank. You're tempted to add a rock, but your camel's stare says, "Focus, rookie." Historians still argue whether these lost routes were abandoned due to climate shifts or bandit raids like those tracks in Section 8. You're betting on both. Nature and humans are equally ruthless out here. You're walking slower now, the caravan's pace cautious as the sand feels looser, like it's hiding traps. The Songhai woman from Section 11 is nearby, her eyes on the horizon, probably thinking about the soup deals from Section 10. You nod at her, a silent check-in per the trader's code from Section 6. Joke number 1. Why's the desert so secretive? Because it's got too many skeletons in the sand.
You mutate softly, et harning as north from your camel, tough crowd.
The elder from Section 8 is up ahead, his turban a beacon as he scans for trouble. You're starting to feel the desert's weight, each step a question. What's buried here, and who walked this path before? Remember that griot's tale from Section 9? His stories of ancient traders feel alive now, like they're etched in the dunes. A modern aside, if you're curled up with a blanket, imagine it's the sand's warmth, minus the part where it gets in your shoes. Your water skin's nearly empty, the oasis from Section 5 a distant memory. You're sifting sand through your fingers, finding nothing but grains, yet the act feels like a ritual, connecting you to traders long gone. Your turban slipping, because of course it is, and you retie it, the caravan moving on as the desert keeps its secrets close. Section 13. The Sahara's dunes are softening under a late afternoon glow, and you're back where you started. Timbuktu's mud brick walls loom ahead, their cracked surfaces welcoming you like an old friend. The caravan's weary, your camel steps slower, but you're buzzing with the thrill of completing the loop. This isn't just a pit stop. Timbuktu's a beacon of Mali's scholarly wealth, a city where books were as prized as the gold pouch still at your hip from Section 7. You're leading your camel through the gates, past merchants and students, marveling at how this dusty hub holds the empire's mind and soul. The journey's taught you grit, but Timbuktu's about to teach you awe. Picture it, the air's thick with the scent of baked earth and spiced millet from street stalls. Your sandals scuff the ground, stirring dust that catches the golden light. Your camel's tail bells from Section 2 jingle faintly, blending with the hum of voices reciting texts. A mainstream fact, Timbuktu was a 14th-century intellectual capital, home to the Sankor Madrasa, where scholars studied astronomy, law, and poetry, their manuscripts traded like the salt slabs from Section 3. This city wasn't just a market, it was a university, drawing minds from across Africa and the Islamic world. You're gawking at a stack of leather-bound books, their pages whispering history. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Timbuktu scholars used salt as book weights, pressing manuscripts flat in the dry air. You imagine a slab from your load doing double duty, and it's almost poetic, salt preserving words like it preserved food. You're tempted to try it, but your camel's giving you that don't mess with my cargo look from Section 11. Historians still argue whether Timbuktu's wealth came more from trade or scholarship, a chicken or egg debate that feels alive in the city's pulse. You're leaning toward both. The gold and books seem like two sides of Mali's coin. You're weaving through a crowd now, dodging a scholar with an armful of scrolls. The Songhai woman from Section 12 is nearby, her braids tucked neatly as she barters for a small text, maybe a poetry collection. You nod, a nod to the trader's code from Section 6, and she points you toward a shaded stall. Joke number 1. Why's Timbuktu so smart? Because it's got all the best circulation. You keep that one quiet. The elder from Section 8 is close, his hawk-like eyes on a passing camel. The city's energy feels like the souk from Section 10, but calmer cerebral, like it's thinking out loud. Remember that griot from Section 9? His stories feel like they were born here, in Timbuktu's alleys. A modern aside, If you're snuggled with a book, imagine it's one of those manuscripts, minus the sand in the binding. Your water skin's refilled, a luxury after the desert's rationing, and you sip, tasting the faint echo of that oasis from Section 5. Your turban slipping, yep, still a problem, and you retie it, earning a grin from a passing kid. You're starting to feel Timbuktu's pull, its mix of trade and thought wrapping around you like a warm robe. The caravan's unloading, but you're not done yet. Section 14. Timbuktu's scholarly hum lingers as the caravan prepares to depart, but you're not leaving yet. The sun's dipping, casting long shadows over the dunes, and you're tracing the Mali Empire's trade routes in your mind, feeling their pulse like a living thing. You're standing at the city's edge, your camel grazing nearby, its salt slabs from Section 3 and gold pouch from Section 7 safely stored for now. These routes, spiderwebs across the Sahara, tied Timbuktu to distant markets, weaving gold, salt, and ideas into the empire's heartbeat. You're piecing together how this network made Mali a titan, and it's like watching history breathe. Picture it, the air's cooling, a breeze stirring the sand into soft swirls at your feet. The city's mud brick walls glow orange, and you hear the faint chant of a scholar from Section 13, mixed with your camel's familiar tail bells from Section 2. A mainstream fact, Mali's trade route stretched over 2,000 miles, linking West Africa to North Africa and beyond, carrying gold to Cairo and salt to the savannas. This network wasn't just commerce, it spread Islam, scholarship, and culture, making Mali a crossroads of the medieval world. You're imagining the caravans fanning out, each one a thread in a vast tapestry. Here's a quirky tidbit. Traders sometimes left coded messages in the sand, patterns or scratches, to warn of bandits or mark safe paths, like desert post-it notes. You're tempted to scrape a smiley face, but your camel's side eye from Section 11 stops you cold. Historians still argue whether these routes thrived because of Mali's strong rulers or despite their occasional chaos, a debate that hums in Timbuktu's air. You're leaning toward rulers. Someone had to keep the bandits from Section 8 in check, right? You're walking the city's outskirts now, tracing a route in your mind's eye, north to Dagaza salt mines, south to the gold rivers. The Songhai woman from Section 13 passes, her braids tucked as she checks her camel's load. You share a nod, that trader's code from Section 6 still binding you. Joke number 1. Why's the trade route so popular? Because it's the highway to history. You mutter it softly, dodging a glance from the elder nearby. His hawk-like stare from Section 8 hasn't softened. The caravan's almost ready, traders murmuring about the next leg, their voices blending with the evening's calm. Remember that griot's tale from Section 9? It's like he mapped these routes in his stories, each one a vein in Mali's heart. A modern aside, if you're cozy with a map app open, imagine it's these routes, minus the GPS, plus a lot of sand. Your water skin's full, a gift from Timbuktu's wells, and you sip, the taste cleaner than that oasis from Section 5. Your turban slipping because naturally, and you retie it, the sand crunching under your sandals. You're feeling the empire's scope now, its routes not just paths but stories, carrying Mali's soul across the desert.
The caravan is steering, Bureau lost in the bigger picture, one step from the journey's end.
Section 15. The Sahara's dusk wraps around you like a soft blanket, the dunes glowing faintly under a sky streaked with pink and violet. You're back at Timbuktu's edge, the caravan disbanded, your camel resting nearby with its salt slabs from Section 3 and gold pouch from Section 7 safely traded or stored. You're watching the sunset, its slow fade mirroring the Mali Empire's desert legacy. This journey, through dunes, oases, and markets, has been a thread in a tapestry woven by countless traders, and you're reflecting on what it all means. The stars from Section 4 are peeking out, and you're sinking into the quiet, letting the desert's lessons settle like sand after a storm. Picture it. The air's cool now, carrying the faint scent of baked earth and distant cookfires from Timbuktu. Your sandals rest beside you, toes digging into the still warm sand, and your turban, finally behaving, sits loose around your shoulders. A mainstream fact, the Mali Empire's trade, peaking in the 14th century, shaped global economies, its gold and salt fueling kingdoms from West Africa to Europe. Its legacy lives in Timbuktu's manuscripts and the stories of traders who braved the Sahara, like you've done. You're feeling their echo. Each step you took a nod to their endurance. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some traders believe the desert sunset held omens, its colors predicting safe journeys or trouble. You're staring at the horizon, wondering if this soft purple means you'd make it home, if you weren't already dreaming. Historians still argue whether Mali's decline came from internal strife or external pressures, a question that feels distant as the stars twinkle. You're not picking a side, you're just grateful to have walked these routes, even in your mind. The Songhai woman from Section 14 is gone, her camel's bells a memory, but the elder's presence lingers, his hawk-like eyes from Section 8 watching from somewhere in your thoughts. Joke number 1. Why's the sunset so calm? Because it's the desert's goodnight kiss. You smile, the quiet swallowing your chuckle. The trader's code from Section 6, the griot's tales from Section 9, the souk's chaos from Section 10, they're all threads tying you to this moment. A modern aside, if you're drifting off, imagine the sunset painting your room, minus the sand in your bed. Your water skin's empty, but Timbuktu's wells are close, their promise sweeter than that oasis from Section 5.
You lean back, the sand cradling you, and let the desertes such take over.
The stars are brighter now, each one a story, like the griot's voice or the routes from Section 14. You're not a trader, not really, but you've carried their weight, felt their world.
The horizon blur, the dune fading into a gentlaz, and your breeze slow, matching the night's rhythm. The world is softening now, the Sahara's edge blurring like a watercolor left in the Rhin.
You're sinking deeper, the sand's warmth a memory as the cool night wraps you tighter.
The camel, the gold, the salt. They're sleeping away, leaving only the star, fin and quin, watching over you.
There's no rush, no dunes to cross, just this quiet, this peace, pulling you gently towards sleep.
Let the desertes whisper fade, let Timbuktu's walls dissolve, and drift, knowing you've walked a passol den time. Sleep now, soft and slow, under the Sahara's endless sky.